Times change, but there's always one place the whole world thinks of for sunshine. For turning your face to the skies and feeling that gentle touch of warmth. Where the sun says to you, lie down, my friend, and let me toast your bones till the tiredness disappears and all the abuse of winter melts away and you feel alive again. Florida.
We will not allow reality, facts, and truth to become optional. We will never surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis flying roughly 50 migrants to Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. Texas dropping off 2 more busloads of migrants in Washington, D.C., this time outside the home of the vice president.
Now to the growing legal fallout over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' latest cruel, politically motivated stunt.
Fight back! Fight back! Well, there was a rainy day that did not stop Florida students from banding together against a controversial House bill that's making its way through the legislature.
Hours after Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill into law that bans transgender athletes from competing in women's sports.
What's being called the Ultimate Cancel Act that would basically get rid of the Democratic Party in the state of Florida.
A disturbing display in downtown Tampa, Nazi flags flying and the flag bearers declaring their allegiance to Governor Ron DeSantis.
Governor Ron DeSantis' administration is hoping to expand the Parental Rights in Education bill, or what critics call the Don't Say Gay law, to all grades.
Does it say that in the bill? Does it say that in the bill? I'm asking you to tell me what's in the bill because you are pushing false narratives. It doesn't matter what critics say.
Well, it says it bans classroom instruction on sexual identity and gender orientation.
Hello, my name is Kyle Mitchell. I'm 26 years old. I'm a father. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I work with homeless veterans, and I'm politically active. Roughly a year and a half ago, I intended to make a film about the housing crisis, and that intent led me to work with some amazing people within Florida Rising. Together, we have done a lot of amazing things. We've held protests in front of City Hall, within the state capitol. We've spoke at City Hall. We've been working on our Tenants' Bill of Rights, Tenants' Advocacy, Tenants' Unions, and essentially anything that we can do to give people here a fighting chance against their landlords. But what even is advocacy? How does one advocate? And how do we deal with the current trials within the system? Well, what better way to explain that than just by showing you Florida Rising's Advocacy Days.
The reason why we're leaving a little bit earlier in the day versus later in the afternoon is we have 2 terrible bills that we gotta speak out against, and 2 of the committees. We'll talk more about that in the car. We do have talking points for those 2 terrible bills, both in the Senate and the House. We'll share that in the van as well, so folks will review them, read them, and ask myself for any additional support in crafting public comment to it. Sound cool?
In front.
Next, we'll take up House Bill 1417 by Representative Esposito relating to residential tenancies. Representative, you are recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Chair. Members, House Bill 1417 amends Chapter 83 to preempt the regulation of the landlord-tenant relationship to the state to ensure a consistent framework for the landlord-tenant law in Florida. That is the bill.
We have a number of appearance cards on this bill. We have at least 20 appearance cards of folks who wish to speak on this bill. I'm going to ask each of you to be brief in your comments and and we'll go one by one. And then as we go, if we start running out of time, I may have to limit the amount of time that you speak. But let's get moving, and we want to hear from all of you.
So I don't normally like to highlight conservatives, business developers, capitalists in any way, shape, or form, but I really wanted to show Mr. Cherry's points because I think it's important to show you what the business developers are talking about, how they use certain words to try and make it justifiable, when in reality these bills are terrible, disgusting, and only benefiting them.
So up first, we'll have Gary Cherry. And after Gary, we'll have Wendell Davis. Thank you for being here. You're recognized.
Thank you. My name is Gary Cherry. I'm active in the ownership and management of a small number of rental units in Tallahassee, Florida. And I've also participated in development and redevelopment of smaller properties as an owner and also as a condo association and townhome association president. As a housing provider and member of the Florida Apartment Association, I stand in support of this important legislation. Florida's Landlord-Tenant Act currently provides very specific guidelines for housing providers and residents. Chapter 83 was incorporated into state law to establish a consistent set of regulations and processes for both housing providers and renters across the state. This legislation accomplishes a very simple goal. It amends Chapter 83 to ensure the regulation of the landlord-tenant relationship remains under state law. The bill also increases notice requirements to reflect some of the notice ordinances that have been adopted by various local governments across the state. Over the past several years, dozens of local governments have enacted landlord-tenant ordinances, and in many cases, these ordinances create separate regulatory guidelines that can vary greatly from the current Chapter 83. And even in adjoining cities or counties, there will be different sets of rules and regulations. These policies have created a cumbersome patchwork of inconsistent regulations across the state that cause confusion for both landlords and residents as they move back and forth. Even in the city of Miami, you have various cities, and as you go back and forth, your rules will change.
So one of the big things that he likes to talk about in this clip is the fact that it would be a cumbersome process for him to understand the basic laws and regulations passed by the local ordinances and governments within certain districts and counties.
As a small business owner, I don't have the additional staff or legal expertise needed to navigate this complicated patchwork of regulations without hiring appropriate people to handle this. It adds cost to my operation. I know I'm not alone in experiencing these unnecessary challenges. Over 400 cities and 67 counties in Florida. They meet throughout the year. The practice of allowing each local government to enact separate landlord-tenant policies will create an unworkable regulatory framework for housing providers, raising our costs and distracting from our ability to serve our residents.
He calls things unworkable frameworks when it's slightly inconvenient to him or would cost him slightly more money.
I think as you listen further to the testimony today, you will hear many legitimate concerns about housing and how it's affected people's lives. And I think that in my case, my judgment is that the problem is not going to be with this landlord-tenant law.
The problems are with our development laws and how we handle the development processes in our community, the added costs that are
His second major point is the fact that these are supply issues, zoning issues, development issues, essentially saying that there's not enough houses to go for middle-class Americans like myself. But what he's not telling you is that if we did build more homes, people like him, rental companies, real estate investors, will buy them up, making that supply problem repeat itself over and over and over again.
The problems are with our development laws and how we handle the development processes in our community, the added costs that are attendant to that, the added cost of insurance through the state of Florida's inability to get reinsurance and other necessary provisions that will help with our costs of insurance on our properties. So I think that when we hear what we hear, we should keep in mind that that really doesn't address the problem that we have with the supply of housing in the state of Florida. Thank you for your time.
Hold on one moment. Representative Bartleman, you're recognized to ask the speaker a question.
Thank you, Chair. So you say it's really difficult for you to navigate different laws and the patchwork. I was just wondering, because we're just speaking to like this particular law, but every municipality and every county has a patchwork. So are you going to advocate for that? Because to me, taking out the tenant bill of rights or even allowing somebody 60 days to know they're going to rent you're going to hike their rent isn't going to impact your life. It gives them notice. And it's really easy to look that up on a website of a municipality or a county to figure that out, to notify them. So how is that a problem for you when you're navigating all the other different regulations, from garbage to height to tree trimming and all of that?
Mr. Cherry, you are recognized.
My response would be that the different patchworks that we see occurring are often in the land use area, the area of how you deal with the property itself and not with the landlord-tenant relationship. It is definitely a problem. We have all the problems with the national, we have the local, we have all of these to learn. We have to train our people, we have to adapt in each location. Now my properties are all here, but there will be a number of people here. There's one of our members who testified earlier today. She has 61 different properties that she has to train her people to learn. She can't transfer one from another and do it without retraining those people, adding to the costs that we have. And in our leasing, it's a matter of negotiating and rewriting leases in order to adapt for each single jurisdiction. That becomes very costly and very time-consuming, both in training and physical dollars.
Thank you.
So now that you've heard what the sponsor said about the bill and what the business developers are saying about the bill, now let's hear how the middle class feels about the bill.
You're recognized.
Thank you, and good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. It is good to be here today. Again, my name is Stephen Johnson, and I'm a resident of Duval, Florida, and I'm glad to be here this afternoon. When I think of the bill, HB 1417, the word that I want y'all to think about is planning. Planning for renters to be sustaining where they are and be able to afford where they are, and then also planning to move to the next level. When you think of HB 17, if this bill passed, it can harshly impact renters like me and others in the state of Florida with the ability to financially plan for the future and home ownership down the road. When you have laws and bills like this that do not hold landlords accountable with disclosing the maintaining of their property, estimation of utility bills, and energy costs, it can and has led to an energy burden for renters again all over the state of Florida. And with that, causing renters to pay more for a roof over their head and having to make that life decision of what should I eat? Can I afford childcare, or can I even afford life-saving medication? Because now I have to pay for more money for a roof over my head. Also keep in mind with this bill, it is extremely important for renters, again, like me, to have that 60-day advance notice. We talked about it earlier. Having that advance notice can really help in that financial planning for us to prepare for the next steps. And then last, when we're thinking about HB 17, as renters, we are trying to move forward, whether it is in home ownership and to the next level. And we have a hard time when we have to pay for more money over the roof over our head. It can hinder us for that down payment. It can hinder us from that mortgage payment, and that's just unacceptable. So as you're reviewing this bill, we ask for your support in declining and thinking of the renters here in the state of Florida. Again, my name is Stephen Johnson. Thank you for this time, and have a great day.
Thank you for being here. Beth Carpenter? followed by Letitia Harmon. You're recognized.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the time to speak. I am Beth Carpenter, recently of Polk County. I was living in Orange County just under 2 months ago. I was a renter. Our rent increase was given to us, and we were given 30 days. It was an increase of 26%. It was $700 a month. My raise, thankfully I got a raise, was 3.2%. You can do the math, right? Our pay increases are nowhere commensurate to the price increases that we are seeing. That was the second year in a row our rent went up. We decided a $700 jump was too much, but we had only 30 days to decide whether to rent again or whether to purchase a home with our retirement income. I am almost at retirement age, and we've had to add 10 years to our working, my husband and I, in order to be able to purchase a home because the rent was too high. I realize that I am privileged, and I had the ability to do that, but I am a minority, and the majority of the people that are dealing with this do not have that opportunity. And it is unfair, and it is inhumane. So 30 days, they could have given us 10 days, right? Because there are no rules. We're just asking for 60 days. Not to mention that when we did purchase our home, we were terrified because our rates for insurance are going up as well. So there has to be some sort of control here. We agree that consistency can be good, and we should be consistent, right? But it only works if both sides benefit, and especially for those most in need for quality of life. Housing prices have skyrocketed due to hedge fund purchasers and real estate brokers, and I know this because I have friends who are both. They're also coming from both inside and outside our country. Just so you know, my landlord has never lived in this country. Yep, it's for real. We also lost our security deposit. You wanna know why? Because the right-hand side of my stove next to the countertop was not cleaned properly. Okay, so we had to forfeit our entire deposit. This is what people are dealing with. And again, I'm gonna say that I was able to come out of it okay. But most people aren't, and that is inhumane. Those amendments, thank you for those, just asked for a little bit of humanity. We're not asking for us not to look at the housing problem, but what we're proposing is just not right. It's very sad, very angering. This bill, as written, is not consistently good for both the landlord and the renter and lays heavy on the landlord favor, does not appear to protect the renter, and in fact, quite the opposite. It will be devastating to at-risk and lower-income citizens. Please think of your constituents who voted at the local level overwhelmingly for renter protections not even a year ago. And bear in mind, these are the very same constituents who vote for those representatives who care for their needs. I implore you to vote no on this bill as it is written. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here. We have about 13 or so more appearance cards of folks who want to speak. I'm going to start limiting public comment to around 2 minutes. Please be as brief as possible so we can work others in and have as much time to hear. Letitia Harmon, you are recognized. Thank you for being here.
Hello, my name is Letitia Harmon. I'm the Policy and Research Director for Florida Rising. I'm here in opposition to this bill. We come to you each session and we say we're in the midst of a housing crisis and we need help. We need housing protections. We need drastic action taken so that people can stay in their homes, so that their homes are safe, so that we can afford to live. And we've been told, go talk to your local officials. So we went and we talked to our counties and our cities, to our local government, and we said, okay, Here's what we need. And throughout the state, they have been listening, they have been acting on this. In Miami-Dade, in Orange County, in St. Pete's, in my own county of Duval, we are currently in conversations to work on a tenants' Bill of Rights with local government. So we have taken that action. And now you're telling us, well, actually, we're going to make all of that obsolete, all of that advocacy that you did with your local government. And so I'm here to ask you, well, then where is the answer to that? Where is your state level Department of Tenant Services? Where are your caps on security deposits? Where is your 60-day notice? What is the legislature doing to enforce the landlord accountability laws that bad landlords are getting away with unsafe living conditions and nobody is holding them accountable for that? So we ask local governments to do it. And if you're telling them they can't, then will you? And I'm sorry, you'll forgive me if I find it difficult to be very sympathetic to the complications of a person owning 61 units of investment property when in my county, people are looking at not getting a security deposit back when they get evicted with less than 30 days notice, and they can't move into another place because they didn't get that security deposit. That's what an actual complication looks like. You can move from Duval to St. John's and figure out how the laws are different. You can figure out who does your recycling and who picks up your trash. But what we are talking about is people who are actually trying to live in their homes, in their communities, and need these kinds of protections. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here. Up next is Kyle Mitchell, followed by Christina Riddle. You're recognized.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyle Mitchell. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I work with homeless veterans. And with me today is my daughter, Alina Mitchell. She's right there. We came here today to ask you to vote no on HB 1417. Every year for the last 4 years now, my daughter and I have had to go through the same stressful process of having to find affordable housing, and this year is no exception to that. I'm also a single father, which makes things even harder, being that I have roughly $3,000 in bills each month, with more than half of that dedicated to my rent. My daughter and I have experienced homelessness. Lived in a tent in Palatka. I've lived in my car. I've lived in hotels, single bedroom apartments. And I'm terrified that if nothing changes, I'm gonna be facing that reality once again. We need to stop cutting protections for the middle class, renters, and giving them to landlords and greedy real estate and rental companies who want to cut corners and not follow local laws. And I know what most of you are saying or thinking, that it's just a supply problem, but it's not. It's a greed problem. Like, make that very clear. We could build 1 million new homes in Florida this year, but it won't mean anything if these real estate investors buy them all up and turn them into rentals. And if you pass this bill, you will be showing every Floridian that you care more about private interests than your own people. And I know almost all of you already have your minds made up, and nothing that I'm gonna say is going to influence you, but I'm begging you, when you are voting on this bill today, think of me, think of my daughter, and think of the millions of Floridians that would be screwed over. And if I have a little bit more time, all the property managers and landlords in this room are financially obligated to support this and full of crap. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Up next, we have Christina Riddle, and I apologize if I said your last name incorrectly. You are recognized.
Close, it's Kittle. And that's my bad on the handwriting. Thank you so much. So I'm with Florida Rising today, and this is very depressing. This is very disrespectful to home rule and democracy, honestly. So I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, and we've been very, very inspired on the local level by a lot of the ordinances that have been passed in other cities. So we've worked with other cities to see what's working. We actually got together, and our local government with developers and landlords and tenants and realtors all got together and had a series months long of meetings. Meanwhile, people are still getting evicted, still facing all these things coming their way. But we got together for months and all came to the conclusion that a tenant bill of rights was the right thing to do for our city. We all decided that together. To take that away at the state level, it would be devastating. I've gotten people to come and perform their civic duty who have never stepped foot in City Hall before, who knew nothing about government, who all of a sudden were very jazzed and excited to come and see how it works and be a part of that. It's really heartbreaking to think that when we're so close to actually getting some real protections and some things that could work for us and give us just a little bit of grace and a little bit of dignity, that it could just be taken away at the state level. And for what? Because landlords can't bother to read different ordinances because of their tons of properties sprawling all over the city. Developers are going to come. Tenant Bill of Rights exists in other cities, like New York City. They have plenty of development. Other cities with Tenant Bill of Rights also have plenty of development. So that there's no correlation there. And also, it's not even a problem that I have a home as a renter. I don't want to be removed from my home is the problem. So yeah, we really just need to think about the actual scope of the issue. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Seeing none, members, we are now in debate on the bill. Representative Bartleman, you're recognized in debate.
Yes. Today I sat here and heard from real Floridians. We heard from a veteran who served our country, who's living with his daughter in a tent at certain times of his life. There are over 1.5 million renters that you represent. And there are a dozen or maybe a couple of hundred of landlords. And I just want to call the landlords on what they're saying. It's just silly. You're telling me you're a property manager of various condos that are rented out, and you can't handle figuring out what Tenant Bill of Rights pertains to each municipality when you can figure out all the individual condo association rules, which are much more intricate than a Bill of Rights. So just so you're clear, every apartment that you're renting in every different condo has different association rules. Your staff can figure that out. This is a wish list for landlords. It's not a landlord's act, it's a landlord's wish list. And I came to Tallahassee to make a difference for the people in my community, the ones that call my office crying because they can't afford their rent, the ones who've appeared before city councils and commission meetings saying we need help. I'm not stopping landlords from making their money. Some of them need to raise their rent because their costs have increased, and some of them just raise them out of pure greed. The common sense amendments that we put forward, giving somebody just 60 days, you're still gonna get your rent increase, don't worry, you'll line your pockets, but giving them 60 days to figure out how they're gonna put a roof over their children's head is not unreasonable. That's not an unreasonable thing for all of us to do here. That was a very simple thing that helps them raise their rents and helps renters figure out how they're going to afford to live. Why are we ignoring these common sense solutions where we could get to a balance to help everybody and not just the landlords? There are Bill of Rights in Miami-Dade County, Broward County, Orangeboro County, Hillsborough County, Tampa, St. Petersburg, and Pinellas. My little amendment giving them 60 days so they can just put enough money together to move, is in Miami-Dade County, Hialeah, Miami Beach, Broward County, Palm Beach County, West Palm Beach, Lake Worth Beach, Royal Palm Beach, Hillsborough County, Tampa, Pinellas County, St. Petersburg, Orange County, Island Mirada, and Naples. But clearly all of us know better than these elected officials who put all of these provisions in place so that people can keep their family with a roof over their heads. I hope that the bill sponsor will consider some of the common sense amendments. I know what you're trying to do here. You're trying to make it uniform. The 60-day notice to me is the most humane thing we can do, giving the working families of Florida a little bit of grace to figure out what they're gonna do. So I hope you'll come back with some changes to this bill. And if you don't, what do we say to our constituents when we get back home?
So despite our words, our comments, our hearts being poured out on the state capitol floor, they went ahead and passed both of these bills as if it was just another day.
What are you eating?
I'm eating some fried snacky chocolate milk.
So how do you feel?
Oh, disgusting.
It's clear that they want to preempt all the work that people are doing locally. They want to stop the momentum of people engaging civically on the local level. And they want to say F you to the people's needs. And they want to support the developers and who they're getting the bigger paychecks from.
It's not good.
What do we need to do?
We have to get registered voters to vote. That's going to be it. They're not changing anything until we get them to come out.
Because they've already made up their minds.
Yeah, they made up their minds.
So what do you do when your voice isn't heard? What do you do when you're mad? You go out in the streets and you stand up for your rights and you make yourself known.
Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back!
So day one was a very tough day for all of us. It was a long day. There were a lot of emotions. There were a lot of terrible bills being passed. And the only thing really keeping us going were the people around us. So we went back to the hotel, got some drinks, got some food, went to the pool, did whatever we could to relax and get ready for the next day.
This is Eyewitness News at 5:30 on WCTV.
Since July 1st, Tallahassee police say there have been 15 shootings in the city.
Happening tomorrow, both Leon County and Tallahassee City Commissioners will meet to address homelessness in our community. Working toward change, hundreds of people gathered to march to the Capitol in Tallahassee to call for more resources for families of victims of crime.
I stand by that because we're experiencing it. Nobody can explain to us that it's not an emergency.
And a school system that does not support us!
Hundreds of Gibbs High School students surrounded Abby Garrettson as she led a protest against what critics dubbed the Don't Say Gay bill. Still, a lot of students disagree and staged walkouts Thursday. From Tallahassee to St. Pete to Land O'Lakes and Brandon.
So day two is a little bit of a different day than day one. Instead of going to committee hearings, we actually went to representatives' offices to try and plead our cases there.
be with Representative Gallup Franklin. We're going to have 3 people that are from Leon County and Gadsden County, which are Chandra, Trish, and one of our other members from Gadsden who will be joining us. So definitely leaning into them because they are literally the residents of the neighborhood. Remind folks, we are speaking first to a House rep. The House rep again is Gallup Franklin. That is in the Leon County area. And there might be, we're not very strict to the outline we have. It's a guiding post, right? Like we know who has what roles.
You gotta do that.
Because I need a lunch too. I think that's another thing I like about this. They remind you to slow down.
Monthly caps on their rents. So, because a lot of people cannot afford what the present rents are going to be soon. A lot of people that's living in, I won't say underdeveloped area, I won't say that, because a lot of areas are developed and still it's just as expensive as one that isn't.
Right. What's the name of it? I'm sorry?
Senate Bill 1583, which was regarding what we call the anti-tenant bill of rights bill.
Oh, yeah, okay, got it.
Yes.
Got it.
Which is a pretty disgusting bill, to say the least, and many of our members here did speak out against it. Try to how do we honor home rule,
right.
And our community member tenants being able to engage with the local government, not the state trying to preempt us from having tenant bill of rights in any local area.
Right.
I'm kind of curious, someone else wants to share a reason why we're against the state anti-tenant bill of rights.
Minority to rent to me because I am not in a position to own, but I'm putting myself in a position to own because the rental situation is so unpredictable now.
Right, absolutely.
And with that rent control bill being passed, we have no promise of that in this moment until we can find a way to get that amended. So what I'm saying to you is, as I'm out canvassing, I literally am coming in contact with people who do not have homes, that are pregnant.
Right.
We met a young lady who has 2 babies in her stomach, has nowhere to stay, and all the shelters are completely filled. That has never been an issue in Jacksonville until the last few years. That's saying that people really cannot afford to buy basic housing in low-income areas. We don't have enough affordable housing. We don't have enough low-income housing. I don't even remember in the last 2 or 3 years hearing anything about the Section 8 programs and HUD.
Yeah.
Like, if they are opening those opportunities, they're not widely publicizing it. And that is sad. Because we got seniors who are looking at homelessness. We got the young lady who's pregnant, literally homeless, staying in the church.
You got even students at UNF.
We have more women that are going to be coming down the pipeline unable to, because of all of the body autonomy disrespect that is happening in Florida. Women will be having babies and they will be on the streets. We are going to see children and babies and mothers and families on the street. We need Tracy to stand up, or we need to understand what is the reason for her voting on some of the housing issues in ways that we feel are alarming.
Like Nubian said, we're saying, I work with the homeless, and I see more homeless now of people, like Nubian said, mothers, young people that are in college. Just people who, my mom has worked all 42 years at Swisher, one job, and now she's facing, not being able to get affordable housing. This is, don't ever tell people that elect you that you're gonna compromise for money. That makes me so upset when you,
yes, ma'am.
I don't ever say that. Please don't ever say that, because that really makes people get in the mindset that you will compromise people's lives or where they're going to stay or their next meal or anything for monetary purposes. And it should not be like that. And I understand your point saying that, okay, some of the bills were, we agreed upon the less of the 2 evils, blah, blah, blah. Okay, if you vote neutral, sit back and come in, and I know Tracy Davis, I've had experience with her, I've had personal talk with her. Come back to the community, walk around the homeless shelter at Trinity, walk around where they corral those people from place to place. You see a lady out there with 3 and 4 children that can't get into, as Nubian say, Give us an alternative. If it's the less of the two evil, then research it and go and give those people alternative.
Yes, ma'am.
Don't give them because of monetary reasons or because we just picked up the lesser two evil. That is a cop out. And I would never accept that somebody that I have control of electing in an office and speaking and representing a person like me every day.
I understand, and I phrased that poorly. So $80 million to invest in building more houses.
It's not true. So it's like we have homes to put people in. We're choosing to privatize homes and make it like, so we can't establish any tenant bill of rights. And I'm curious, so you mentioned that one of the reasons that Representative Davis did vote yes on this bill is because of that $80 million whatever for building, right?
Yeah.
So is that the only thing that y'all saw as like a good thing in the bill, or what else made you vote on it?
I mean, we saw a lot of investment in communities. We saw a lot of things that could be positive. I didn't realize that was the false narrative. We were not aware that that was the thing. So we thought investment in communities, picking areas. Obviously, the AMI is a problem. We did try to get the AMI lowered, I think, to 80% is what we tried. Do what?
No, I'm saying it was 80.
It was 80.
Yeah, it was already 80.
No,
I thought it passed at 130.
120. It passed at
120.
It was. You're correct. What Senator Davis was advocating for was 80.
Yeah, so we were trying to get it lowered. We were trying to advocate. You know, the sponsor didn't agree. The president of the Senate didn't agree. There's not a lot we could do, but we saw a lot of potential for hopefully this problem being a step in the right direction. It's clear that it is not.
Well, I would just
and so I apologize for our misinformation at the time. But, you know.
Somebody who has a home, there's homes that exist, we're just being priced out of our homes.
Right.
And this is exactly the kind of bill, or 102, which is law now, is exactly the kind of thing that makes people like me lose my home.
Okay.
So again, it's unfortunate that she did vote for that, and I'm just hoping now that we can correct that with a no vote on SB 1586, because that just eliminates all the work that we've been doing on the local level, where we have gone over the entire scope of the issue and we've clarified those kind of issues.
Right.
Cover Section 8?
I believe so. So I believe it's in part, I'm not 100% positive, but I believe it is pairing with federal grants to help.
Okay, because Section 8 at one time, you could use your voucher to purchase a home. Mm-hmm. Is that still in place?
I'm not 100% positive. I don't know.
No, it's not.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
no,
so that's
Florida.
Okay, then.
Yeah, that's something
that's a problem for us to address next time.
Yeah, so if we could address that, because that would help. You know, at least give people hope.
Right.
Because this rental thing isn't working too well.
Right.
And we also know that new construction for a regular home and not in the upscale neighborhood is already $200,000. So the people that's moving into those neighborhoods, they would need to earn over $70,000. When the state refused to increase minimum wage, and we had to do a ballot initiative. So this is where our argument is always profit over people, and we want people over profit.
Right. Well, I don't want you to feel any type of way, or any of you to feel any type of way. You all can always pick up the phone and call and ask why I voted the way I did. Yeah. So now that I'm here, I'll let you know why I voted the way I did. This is the first time in history we've ever had money like that going into shipping sale. And we are dealing with, you all know it better than I do. You know there's an affordable housing crisis. But in that bill, we're moving away from affordable to housing. You're talking about over $250 million going to ship to our counties. You're talking about $60 million going to sale to our counties. So totally, probably more than that, because there's another $150 million going to a Hometown Heroes program within that program. So the dollars and cents that are going to our counties have never been available for our counties to handle this housing crisis like it was. Now, was it a perfect bill? Absolutely not. But when you start talking about the rent stabilization and things like that, this is Jacksonville? Yeah. Okay, Jacksonville. And Leon. Okay, both counties. Leon is Democratic. Jacksonville is not. We know. We're not.
So when people say, and I'm elections, I don't know if you all know my background that's from Leon, I'm elections. So when people say Jacksonville will go blue, it's not. We don't go blue until it's a presidential election, and if we don't have the right candidate, we're not going then. So to get on the bandwagon of the rent stabilization and things like that in a red county, it's not going to happen.
I disagree with that respectfully. The question of people who deserve a right to housing.
I agree with that.
So regardless of whether or not Jacksonville is blue or red, we have a right to housing. There are people on both sides of the aisle who's like Republicans, Democrats, non-party affiliates. We just saw in the local elections how well independents and non-party affiliates did because of the disenchantment with this discussion, kind of respectfully, like, because what is more money into Jacksonville going to do for a tenant like me when my landlord decides to give me a whatever the.
You want me to help you with that? Help you with home ownership. That's what our goal should be. And these dollars and cents help you with help counties with home ownership.
That's an amazing
But we gotta.
Right. But the reality is, right now we have over 50% of renters in Jacksonville, Florida. So the majority of people in Jacksonville, Florida, are renters. We all want a home. I don't live in a rental in a shoebox with termites everywhere and just chaos because I want to live there. I do it because that's the only thing I can afford right now as a 24-year-old with no family that can pay my stuff. So understanding that this is the reality of Jacksonville people, and it's like we want an avenue to homeownership. Absolutely, we want that, but we need a solution right now for the crisis we're in right now. And that would have been a tenant bill of rights, but that is now not going to happen because of SB 102. And I get that it's like politics are about compromise, but I also do think that this is something that should have not been compromised because it encroached on home rule for Jacksonville, and it just. And like everybody, and it sets us up in a not good position moving forward for local work. That's one of the ultimate issues here, is moving forward locally across Florida. Community members are gonna have a hard as hell time getting stuff we need for our communities passed because of these attacks on local government and home rule. And I think, yeah.
Like they're a legislator. Okay, ready? We're preparing our combo moves. 3. You gonna launch her?
People you guys see every day. You know what I'm saying? If you hell yeah today until she.
To protest, I hold this up next to them. We actually just got a picture of me with the head of Health and Human Services.
She's like, hey, kid, you're good. I'm dead. She was like, Christine wants something else. So
no, literally, we had our party of our own.
Right here.
I don't want it. I'm not ready. Okay, yeah.
She's asking me now.
So Jacksonville wasn't the only group that made it to the state capitol. We had groups from Miami, Orlando, Daytona, Tampa, Sarasota, Fernandina Beach, Tallahassee, all throughout the state of Florida to protest against these awful and terrible bills. Unfortunately, one of our groups was utterly disrespected during a committee hearing. This committee was voting on a bill that would change the abortion ban from 15 weeks to 6 weeks. And so just like the march, we want to make sure our voices were heard.
Alright, I'm gonna do close-ups, y'all. Keep looking good. 3, 2, 1.
So, what does advocacy mean to you?
Advocacy for me means to stand up and fight for your own rights and the rights of others, even if you feel like maybe you're in a better position or you don't feel like your livelihood's under attack. There are people whose livelihoods are under attack, and understanding that it's like when they come for one, they come for all. So advocacy for me is just understanding that we are all part of a community and we all have a responsibility to that community and speaking out for it.
Advocacy means to me basically doing my part in the community to make sure that every single voice in the community is recognized and heard. When I first got into working with the nonprofit sector, I was an advocate for people who were unable to advocate for themselves. So I took time out to learn about what their need was based off being directly impacted by this specific issue that was keeping them down. So after recognizing that I myself may not have been a person in that situation, I was directly connected to someone who I loved, who was dealing with it, and it was affecting my life. So in that moment, I realized that I am an advocate for folks who don't have a voice or don't feel the confidence to say what they need to say in order to get some kind of resolve and help.
Advocacy to me is the ability to uplift triumphs, victories, and needs of myself and my community around me. It is uplifting those who do not have the voices to raise chaos for themselves. It's sticking it to the man and showing everybody what's going on.
Advocacy means that it's organizing, getting the community together and making our rights known and speaking up for people who might not have a voice and just need some help.
Advocacy means to me taking action that goes beyond the tactic of going on the ground, be on the sidewalk, rather action, sense of policy. Advocacy for me means that we as community members and as we get further activated, take a hand in saying yes, no, or changing or moving policy, right? So that for me is advocacy, is taking action that is around policy and speaks to actual things that we are fighting for in neighborhoods.
Advocacy means your voice is being heard. Advocacy means having a seat at the table, but not just having a seat, but able to eat and able to dine at the table. Advocacy means being able to start a change, start a movement, no matter how big, no matter how small. It is a start to something different, something good, start to a better change.
Advocacy means, while I may not be the one in power, I may not be the one actually voting to make laws or make decisions about how our society is run and what is legal and illegal, I still have a voice for myself and for everyone who has ever been historically marginalized. All of those communities have a way to speak out and advocate for themselves. That's advocacy to me.
Advocacy for me is speaking out. Speaking out for yourself, speaking out for your family, speaking out for your community. I think advocacy it's different but related to organizing. And so as an organizer, I think organizing is about bringing people together to talk about the problems our communities face and our solutions. And then advocacy is like when you go speak truth to power, when you take that to elected officials and decision makers and try to bring about the changes that you're looking for.
And how are you able to keep doing it despite all the bullshit, having our teeth kicked in, and how hard it can be sometimes?
It can be grueling to do advocacy work, honestly. But to me, the only reason that keeps me going is simply because if I don't do it, nobody else will.
I think that without the ability to advocate and to community organize, I would
not be here today, not to get so morbid, but the reality is this world is not built for us right now. It does not want us to see us thrive or survive with it. And without the ability to wake up every day and organize, I think that I would have fallen to what this world wants us to fall to. So it's my hope.
Oh, that's a good question. I have 2 daughters, and they're 11 and 13, and for me it's about honoring my grandmothers and my mother and a lot of people in my family who have come before us, but also thinking about the future, thinking about our kids and the kind of world that they're going to inherit, and that helps me. And then I think sisterhood sustains me, so being in community with other people who share our values, who share our beliefs, who want to be a part of movement and carrying a torch of freedom and liberation forward.
I'm able to keep doing it because we keep being attacked, and there's only a few responses to being attacked, and one of them is fighting back, and that just is my response.
And how are you able to continue doing it every single day despite all the issues we face and how difficult it may be?
Righteous rage. I get up every day and can I swear?
Yeah.
Because I get up every day and I'm so fucking angry.
No, for sure, and rightfully so.
And so that's it. I get up and I'm like, no, you absolutely cannot tell me that it's just okay for the world to be like this, and I just have to roll with it and think that that's fine. Absolutely not. That's what keeps me going.
That's awesome. And then last question, what would you say to anybody that's interested in getting started with something like this?
Oh, I would say there are so many different organizations to be a part of, so find one that speaks to you. You know, we invite people to join Florida Rising from all walks of life, but there are so many different organizations out there, youth organizations, immigrant rights organizations. Like, what's the issue that you're most passionate about, and find an organization. And if you don't find the organization that you're looking for, you can start an organization. But I think organization and being in a collective, like breaking through the individualism in our society to find ways to come together, is essential and is what we're all about.
So thank you all so much for watching, and never give up fighting. For me, this means a tighter budget, longer hours, and less time and money to spend with my daughter. But for my neighbors, Chuck and Angela, this situation is far more serious. See, my neighbors are in their late 60s and on a fixed income, just Social Security and disability. And even with a slight increase to their Social Security, the rate of inflation has basically made that increase null and void. They have lived there for over 8 years and not one late payment. They have had every intention of living out their lives there, and despite their loyalty, they are now forced to move. With 1 month left, they are struggling to find a new home and ultimately struggling to avoid being homeless. It's a shame I only have 90 seconds because I could talk to you all for 90 minutes and still not have enough time to cover all the issues caused by this housing crisis. And so I ask you, how many stories do you need to hear for it to resonate with you? How many lives have to be ruined in order for someone to do something? We need a tenants' bill of rights, tenants' unions, a housing emergency, or at least some basic regulation to keep landlords from completely draining us. So what are we about to be doing?
So we're about to go to our first committee, the Judiciary Committee, to talk about one of these terrible bills, the anti-Bill of Rights bill. So we got our Duval members joining us, as y'all know. About, I think, 6-7 of us to talk against this bad bill. State of Florida and we're over here in North Florida as well. So, any other final questions, folks, before we
Just a little PS on that. Make sure that whatever guidelines are in place, they don't differ from county to county. We kind of want it, if you can, statewide, because Duval County can say aggravated burglary carries this many points.
Intro is by Ernestine. We're going to be speaking to Jacqueline. You'll be speaking to SB 102 again. That's one that Hatchpath was asking around why they voted for it. Why they voted for it, I mean.
Forward,
like asking why they did, because they that's what those vote on. I'm thinking echoing the same we spoke about right now as well will be worthwhile. I think the Senate bill companion to what you mentioned, Rosemary, would be an awesome down to lift up, okay? Besides that, let's start heading out, folks, and I got y'all straight in a minute. Let's go to the elevator and hit for the second floor. Second floor.
So, how do you feel about what just happened?
How do I feel?
Yeah.
I feel that it was a slap in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said it has nothing to do with rent control or anything like that, but it all ties in and it all has something to do with us as tenants and our rights being violated.
That's great.
Oh, you're welcome. Miami Chamber of Commerce. There for my.
What are we doing?
We're going to go see more people, and we're going to go home and play Fortnite.
So if a member of a governing body of a city council, city commission, town council, etc., or a state attorney.
Rent is not the path to president. Banning books and raising rent is not the path to president. Banning books and raising rent is not the path to president. Banning books and raising rent is not the path to president.
You gotta tell me. So it was like a layout of like, I'm the message was falling. I know, but it was a layout.
Alright, folks, so let's get to the point. Let's corral inside. Awesome.
What's this
Yeah, so I mean, there is a lot of money that's coming in, but I mean, aren't mortgage companies prioritizing like real estate companies and rental companies instead of middle-class Americans like me?
I don't see that. I don't share that. I mean, I can't.
At rates that are not affordable to our communities. So we're here to tell them say no to House Bill 1417, continue to make housing affordable for us, create housing where we can live in dignified housing, quality housing.
I fight for myself. I'm a returning citizen, and I am that exact person that I was just talking about. It's been 32 years since I've been arrested. 32 years. But I am not. I'm clear today that if I go out and DeSantis arrested some people right before the election, he had returning citizens afraid to vote in 2022. And we see how that election